Hey everybody, welcome back once again to On the Couch with David and Travis, the finale
That was
of Neon. Yeah.
the End of Evangelion, and watching that takes something out of you. I feel physically exhausted, and
It doesn't help that it's 7:30.
yeah, but I'm just like mentally like,
A lot happened.
What did you think?
Overall, I liked it. I could see how people because we I don't know if we talked about this on camera, but we had talked before about how some people view like the TV show as happening like in the middle of the movie when he's like in that kind of Christ-like cocoon of where he like chooses it and then he decides to not choose it.
Yeah.
So the ending confused me.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there. But besides that, I enjoyed it.
I feel much stronger. I think it's a masterpiece. I don't see a lot of things and go, "Oh, this was incredible," but I think in terms of visual storytelling, it's just one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
It's really interesting.
The show is great. There's good things, there's flaws, and this obviously isn't a perfect movie. It has flaws, but I think it's a 10 out of 10. Anybody who's interested at all in movies or storytelling should see this. I think this...
See, and I'm interested in neither of those things, and I liked it.
I think it's something... Everybody who's like, oh, I like watching movies, you need to watch this at some point in your life, you know. Whether or not you like it and agree with it, there are just so many important things with the writing, with the visuals. The animation and the cinematography are leaps and bounds above the show. Almost every single shot in this is beautifully composed. I can't even imagine how they thought of some of these creative camera angles and symmetry in the shots. It is just absolutely incredible. I think it serves as a conclusion to the series, much stronger than the original ending.
Agreed.
Like I said before, I think every character, at least of the main ones, is given sort of that final moment, and it's a satisfying conclusion. Even, like Ritsuko, she dies, but it's a great moment. I think, it's hard to take notes watching this because you're just half the time trying to comprehend what you're even looking at.
Yeah. That's very true.
So I thought the best way to do this would just be sort of going chronologically and not even dissecting the scenes, but just sort of talking about what we thought of them.
Yeah.
That's all you can really do.
Yeah.
The first thing is the opening scene, and I think it is incredibly smart. I think that opening scene is the hospital. She's in a coma.
That one. I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't... it just didn't seem in character.
Well, here's what I think. For a story like this, because it's not a traditional movie. It's a movie to end out a series, so we've already established these characters. We need to work it out. How do you start something like this? You show a character at their absolute lowest. The lowest they could possibly be. And I think this illustrates it in a so much more nuanced way than I think anybody could really conceive, because... Okay, so he and that is so uncomfortable to watch. You see it. David had the same rage. The first time I saw this, I had to go back because I said there's
I thought he was crying, and I'm
there's no way that's what they just did. But they went there, if you will. And I think it says so much about the character too, because a character in this situation could have or to some capacity. But with this moment, they're saying even at his most low and depraved, Shinji is so passive and
that's true.
Looking from the outside that he it's such a disgusting thing. And it's almost even more disgusting something like that, because it says just how much of a worm he is as a person. And think about, it's a logical thing, okay? We have, and I'm sorry if any of that sounds weird, I'm just trying to, dissect it analytically.
No. I'm not
sound like you should... But, it's the giant robot show, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you think, how are they going to start the big grand finale? There's going to be some big fight, some big action-y moment.
Which we do have.
Which
come later.
But they started out with this moment, and I feel like if you were watching this in theaters, everybody would just be like, what?
And we're like,
it's such the antithesis of what you would expect from something like this.
That's very true.
And it is so... I don't think you could have done anything better, because it puts you in the mood where, like, okay, I'm ready to see something disgusting. I'm ready to see something depraved and horrible. And this movie is horrifying, I think, some of the imagery.
Oh, yeah.
And that scene is just... Because a lot of people just see that scene as the takeaway from it, Shinji is horrible. And yes, that is obviously part of the takeaway of it. But thematically, the way it sets up the audience for what they're about to see, and even more so established that this is not the world of the TV show. This is a movie. This is an R-rated, theatrical, high-budget movie. They aren't afraid to show... it's full-on nudity in this. And it's the kind of thing you could never, nor would you want to do in live action, because there's no way to remotely tastefully... It's arguably if this is tasteful, and that's why they're doing it. And then he says the line. He says, I'm so effed up.
Yeah.
And boom.
Which is true.
And this movie is really smart with how it does this, because I think one of the most important things in sort of adult-oriented movies is how you use your curse words. I think it's a huge thing a lot of people don't think about, they don't take advantage of.
Well, especially if they're watching, The House.
What's The House?
Isn't that was like the one with Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler?
Oh.
Or, it's just like, if you're just kind of watching like...
Different comparison.
If you're just like watching a generic, 40-year-old virgin R-rated movie where
they throw the F-bombs out constantly.
Exactly.
People forget there's power in those words.
Yeah.
And this movie uses them at two places, and I think it's two of the most important places in the movie. It's that opening with Shinji, and then when Masato is giving her final speech. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that one too. But just going from that open scene, you just see how incredible and detailed this animation is. And I mean, it doesn't even need to be explained. They talk about it in the movie. The setup for this first act is great. What have we spent the last 26 episodes trying to combat?
Angels.
Angels, something we can't comprehend, something we can't identify. Thus, we're prepared for it, it's easy to deal with. So what's the thing that finally does them in?
Humans.
It's man.
Well, the problem, and this is kind of a thematic thing overall, in terms of media in general, is most people, tend to, especially in terms of, talking about war, humans are, the worst.
And they do it really well, because, with the angels, you never really see them kill anybody unless they're already fighting them. Mm-hmm. But you watch this, and they specifically make steps to show, you are authorized to kill non-combat personnel. The people are pleading for their lives, and they're gunning them down. Yeah. It's meant to illustrate how horrible the man is compared to, what we thought were the monsters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like the classic Frankenstein, right? Humanity is the monster.
Elephant Man, Frankenstein. It's anything, but it works so well thematically in what this is set up.
Yeah.
And the next big thing is Asuka's sort of last stand. And I don't even entirely understand the whole thing where she's like, I know the true meaning of the AT field. Mama, you've been watching me over this whole time. In my mind, I'm like, is she just delusional? Is she insane? Or does this actually...
the way they animated her and they illustrated her, she looked insane.
They did it purposely. Her facial expressions look so deranged, and it's perfect for the gruesome nature of that fight scene. Yeah. It is disgusting. You're ripping out organs, you're decapitating people, and it's got the great orchestral score. That scene is just great.
Well, we know that in Shinji, Yui is Eva, so it makes sense that her mother would be her Eva, but it's even more kind of terrifying that they, she hung herself and then they took her soul and put it in Eva.
Well, she tried to get Asuka to do it too, and that's terrifying.
Horrible. So I think it was a little bit of both.
In that scene, they set it up perfectly because she's winning and she's dominating. Mm-hmm. But in your mind, you're like, no, we're not gonna get a happy ending here. And they just have that horrible, horrible scene where they stab her in the eye, and it's like what you talked about earlier. I'd like to see, if the Evangelion's arm gets ripped off her arm. But you see the blood gushing out of her eye.
Yeah.
And they rip out the entrails, and it is just a horrifying, depressing thing to watch. Because you get this, this is Asuka's last stand. This is her chance this is her final moment. And then to see it just completely be in vain.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is sad.
It's horrible. It's visceral.
It's extremely... And it's animated so... I can't even overstate how good the animation is in this.
It's so well because it's so gruesome.
But also, like, they must have had a lot more money to work on this because it's so detailed with how it moves and how the other things move. Yeah. And it's just so hopeless to see you're fighting. And the way they design the mass production Evangelions, it reminds us, we were talking about how it was like the nobodies in Kingdom Hearts, and that must be like some Japanese folklore thing to pop up into things like that. And it's almost exactly the same design and idea.
Yeah, really creepy.
But they make them look so non-human compared to the Evas, which are kind of meant to look humanoid. And it just makes it, it's man versus nature, man versus machine, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah. Ugh.
And it's like, if that scene didn't break you up enough, then you have Misato's last scene. Which, it's just the perfect way to end that character's arc for me. Because
she's so...
You had all those episodes.
She's so wonderful.
Shinji, I want to die. I don't want to do this. But she says she's not humoring him anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
I don't even care. Okay? You can either stand here or die, or you can do this, and I won't forgive you if you don't. And he's like, you don't understand it. She's like, I don't care if I don't understand you. And that's just the perfect way for that character to like.
Well, it's freaking true.
Yeah, it is. It's calling it out, and it's like, this is the perfect time to do it because they've got us this whole time. Like, oh, she's the nice. She's not here to be nice. She's here to
and we've seen it. We've seen parts of that before in the series, so it makes sense that she would do that now. She's always been the one person who's like, yep, things are horrible, things suck, I don't care.
Well, it's like you talked about with the other episodes, you need that driving force, and she is that for this movie.
Yeah.
Especially at least the first half.
Yeah. Well, and, for people and dealing with those depressive issues, obviously people deal with them in different ways in order to get better. But, like, sometimes, the most effective thing is just to be like...
Just keep moving.
Yeah, it's like, great, so what are you going to do about it? Like, what's the point? What's the point in ruminating and sitting here and doing nothing? What are you going to do about it? And if you can't do anything about it, then that's your choice.
When she dies, it's sad. That's for this movie, that was my first cry when we were watching it. That's rough on me. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Well, I try to hide it from you because you might make fun of me.
No.
But, how do you feel about the kiss?
That was strange.
They drag it out really long, and
I don't know how I feel about that.
It's always been kind of questionable, like, would Misato sleep with Shinji? I feel like they kind of push it sometimes.
Yeah, they did a little time, but I feel like a kiss on the cheek could have done it so much.
But
that would have been.
It would have been too normal.
But just because you want to be weird doesn't mean it has to be weird.
It's not
because you're still trying to ground it in a human relationship.
I think
normality is part of human relationship.
I think what it's trying to say is it kind of pushes the idea that the way Misato deals with her problems is with physicality and sexuality. So with her idea, with her last dying breath, what can I do? Well, all I can do is be physical. All I can do is kiss someone.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like that kind of undermines her character a little bit, and I don't know how I feel.
I don't think her having problems and weaknesses undermines.
No. But I just feel like I think she would have enough. She would know not to get.
But she's kind of showed that she's sort of dancing the line. The way she sort of like grabs his hand and pushes him against stuff. It's like.
That's true, but I feel like...
you wonder.
I know, but at the same time, it's like, I want to believe that barrier is there, and
you want her to be better than she actually is.
Yeah, but I don't think she's actually that bad.
I think she's just as messed up as everyone else, she just carries it differently.
I don't know.
That's how I see it.
And my interpretation of her is clouded by my judgment, because I like her so much. But at the same time, I just feel like she hasn't done enough negative things throughout the series in order for that to be truly warranted now. That's just my 2 cents.
And then you kind of get to the point of the movie where it is the instrumentality and deciding whether or not to accept or deny it, which is sort of what the past 2 episodes were about. And there was a lot of interesting stuff. Some of it was kind of stuff we'd already seen before or talked about, but much better animated.
Yeah.
With all new stuff.
Yeah.
I really like that scene where it's sort of a rehash of the Asuka and Shinji kissing scene from that older episode. But she has like that big lash out where it doesn't matter who, you just need someone to validate you. And then he starts choking her.
Yeah, that's scary.
it's done really, like, they give her, like, a grotesquely long neck, and they, like, show the veins, and they're really trying to hit it home. And then they have sort of the third impact sequence, which has got the Come Suits Her Todd song in the background. And we talked about how I am sort of conflicted on how I feel about using orchestral music. Things like that. Now here's something that I just think is... That Come Suits Her Todd sequence is my favorite sequence I've basically seen in any movie ever. They're not just using classical music. It's an upbeat J-pop song with depressing lyrics about suicide while we're watching everybody in the world be eradicated in their own way. And I think the dissonance there...
kind of like forming into this jelly.
...works on so many levels. I think it's just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, it was really strange.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And you get every character's like little final moment, and it makes you just like, oh, yeah, we got the idea that one nerdy guy was always kind of into Masato, so it turns into there. You get Fuyutsuki, he's like, did you get to see Yui again, Akari? You get that, I don't know why I think this moment is so emotional, but you get that moment with the girl, computer lady.
Yeah.
She's like hugging the Ritsuko sort of ghost thing, and she explodes. That part I just think is so sad.
It really is.
That gets to me. And then I really...
When I was confused, confused about this. So why did Ray and Adam, like, morph into this humongous giant monster creature thing?
I'm not sure. I could watch this movie 10 times and there would be a million things I don't know.
Because all of a sudden Adam and Ray become one, and then...
He's the original angel. He's the
yes,
birth
he's
of everything.
number one.
From Adam comes the Eva, right?
Yeah.
Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
I know Lilith is something biblical too. I don't really know what her role is, but
that's like the egg mother of all humans.
And Lilith is Ray, and when Ray is fused with Adam, I don't know. I
don't know. That confused me.
I don't need to know though. I feel like
Yeah, I don't know. I think. I guess I could see why.
There's a lot of things
I
I don't know with this movie.
I could see arguments both ways where it's like, it would have been a little more illuminating if we kind of understood a little more what was happening.
Here's the other thing.
But then at the same time, there's also the idea like, well, if you don't know what's happening, and it leaves it open to interpretation, that also kind of gives you the leeway to see it how you want to see it.
There's a lot
which
of
then like
there.
kind of morphs into the idea of like you create your own knowledge of the world. But then at the same time, it's like also as you're telling a story, I feel like it should be a little clearer exactly what's happening. So I'm kind of on the fence with that.
Well, they set it up front that this is not a movie whose priorities are to tell you everything that's going on. We don't even know. No. This could be in the middle of the previous episodes. This could be after. These could be two completely unrelated things. This could be, oh, we did the first ending because we didn't have money. This is what we would have done if we had the money. We have no idea. It's really up to you to decide what you think it means because there's no answer. There's absolutely no answer.
But I could see if they made it a little more streamlined and explained like what's happening, I could see why that would be an improvement for some people.
It's not the most accessible movie. You need to watch the show to have any semblance of what's going on. That's the first ticket.
And even
second ticket, you have to be ready to just, not know what's going on at all times and just buckle up and enjoy it. And if you can't get over those two things, you will not enjoy this movie. But if you can accept those, watch it. I really like Gendo's last moment, too. It's kind of rushed, and it's kind of simple. But, in a way, I almost feel like it... They have that moment where he's, like, grabbing Ray, and it's, like, the awkward sort of pedophilia vibe. But she says, I'm not your puppet, and you see him in the first sort of act of desperation. Saying, no, Ray, no. And then there's
which was a good moment.
Yes, that was a beautiful moment.
I like seeing that.
And then you have him on the ground, and he just talks about how he just never even bothered with Shinji because he didn't want to try.
Well, he said that he felt like if he did try, it would make it worse. Yeah. Which is kind of heartbreaking.
And so this is my retribution, and it takes a bite out of him. It's gruesome.
Yeah.
And you have the broken glasses, which is a huge imagery thing for the show. And you have the three
Well,
rays.
that also is kind of... Since the Eva is Yui, it kind of shows how she's kind of pissed at him, too.
This is well. I think makes it pretty clear that this is not what she would have wanted, even though that's what he thinks she would have wanted.
Yeah.
And it finally ties together his motivations. We knew he was doing this for Yui, but this really pushes how desperate he was clinging to that. Because really, he had absolutely nothing in this world that he could connect to outside of her. And you could argue that, maybe his intentions weren't as bad as you'd think. I think they're trying to say in a way that, he was so hurt by losing her, he thought if he could collectively put everyone together into this new instrumentality thing, nobody would have to feel the pain he did. So you could even argue that in some small semblance he had noble motivations.
But then I kind of like how Shinji says at the end, like, if I'm one with everybody, that means everybody is one, which means nobody is themselves.
I think the sort of conclusion arrived in this movie of him rejecting instrumentality is a lot better than him accepting it.
Yeah.
It's sort of what you would expect.
Well, and the reasoning that he uses in the series is kind of the same reasoning he uses to reject it.
Mm-hmm. It just makes more sense here. And it feels like the more noble pursuit. It feels like the better arc to have it.
Well, and it's kind of the right... Like, I don't want to say there's right and wrong, but it's kind of the right answer.
It's the more noble answer. It's the... It's him sort of coming to the conclusion that the possibility of pain is worth it for the possibility of hope versus the possibility of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncertainty is frightening. We all know that.
Yeah.
But
well, it's like Inside Out, It's like where Joy, the character Joy, realizes that in order for joy to actually occur, there has to be anger and fear and sadness.
And I think that's the more realistic conclusion. I think a lot of people who go into this and come out, that's closer to the conclusion they arrive at.
Well, and really, in general, like if you talk about how, if he accepts human instrumentality, it's all about like contentment. Mm-hmm. But being content is kind
complacent
of like,
is almost the better word.
That's more complacent. Being content with your life is something more, at least I try to ascribe to, is not like having unbridled joy throughout my entire life, but being like happy and content with where I am in life.
Well, you have to accept the fact that not 100% of your life is going to be enjoyable. You have to sort of sit through.
And that's part of growing up.
Well, I think this is the self-discovery that a lot of these people, and especially this age, again, we keep going back to 13 to 17, it's what a lot of people sort of have to discover about themselves. I think...
you
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and really, he realizes what almost every single character in this series doesn't realize, is that in order for there to be joy, there has to be pain, which means pain is something that you can move through. Mm-hmm. And for every other character in this series, they're all clinging to the pain of the past, and they can't move beyond that. Yeah, and he's kind of finally realizing that pain exists, and that therefore that means I can go past it, and I can move beyond it.
I really don't.
And everyone else is just kind of like, they're like, my past was so horrible and I feel pain, and so I'm just going to ruminate on that.
Yeah. It's a lot about the past, what came before you, and not a lot about moving forward. And that's really the first moment any time in this series where a character says, let's look toward the future.
Yeah.
One scene that I really don't know how I feel about, not that I dislike it, is I do really like Ritsuko's final scene where it's the perfect ending to her arc where this is my final stand against Gendo. I'm not going to take this anymore.
It fails.
Her mother stops her.
Yeah.
Because she chooses Gendo over her. Just as what would make total sense. It would almost be too convenient for it to work. But I don't really understand Gendo's line that's like cut out for...
Yeah, I don't understand that. I feel like they no matter what it was, they could have just said it.
I get that you're supposed to draw your own conclusion. And there's plenty of opportunities in this movie to draw your own conclusion. But that one...
Well, and, like, that's, like, character in your storytelling. Like, if you want to tell a story that you want people to respond to, you need to have characters that have motivations.
How many conclusions can you really draw from that anyways? Ritsuko, truly I... ... She says liar. Truly I loved you, truly I needed you, or the opposite. Truly I never needed you, truly I never loved you.
Or, truly, I ate all those donuts that you put in the fridge one day. Like, it's just so open to interpretation that it's not...
No, I think the problem is that it's not open enough. I think there's, like, 3 or 4 directions it could go, and that's it. So what's the point of drawing your own conclusion when it's so
if
set
it's
out?
Limited. Yeah. I think it's kind of like both, where it's like, well, we already know the basically the A, B, C, or D option of what it could be, but then they try to pretend like it's kind of this open to interpretation thing when it's really not.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know why I said you put donuts in a fridge, but...
The other thing is, I don't really know how I feel about the live-action segments of this movie. They're pretty to look at.
I don't know if they add much thematically.
What's being said on top of them, I think, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know how what we're looking at connects with what we're hearing.
Yeah, I don't.
It just seems like filler. Or
yeah,
I get that they have the shot where it's like Asuka, Rei, and Misato like as real people, and there's like all those movie theater shots, but it just and there's the swing that connects a little bit, but it feels like they could have put something more interesting visually.
Well, and we don't need a visual reminder that this all applies to the real world.
Yeah,
like we know. Because we're humans in the real world, watching something made by humans in the real world, that it applies to our own ideas about life. Maybe if you wanted to include that, you would just have like an overlay and like another scene.
Any number of sort of experimental things they showed, like with the line art, or with just like that one scene in the show where it's just things morphing into each other and it's doing like mitosis.
Yeah,
it could have been something like that.
Yeah, I think it was too long.
Yeah, and at that point in the movie, you're pretty exhausted from what you've seen. So it's kind of like a lull. And then the big, one of the most, I guess, I don't want to say contentious, but sort of big questions after anybody watches Evangelion. And that is, who do you think is best girl?
Well,
I'm kidding.
You know who I think is best girl.
The ending. The ending is bizarre. But I really like it.
I don't know how I feel about it. I just don't...
The idea is supposed to be that Shinji chokes her because he's not certain if he's in instrumentality anymore. And then the big thing is her line. What does it mean? How disgusting.
I don't know.
What I think is... Okay, so both of them clearly rejected instrumentality, right? The easiest answer I can come up with is, through instrumentality, at least in the deciding process, you learn everything. You know everything.
Yeah.
So she knows about what Shinji did at the beginning.
Oh, that's
What do you
true.
respond to that? How disgusting.
It's kind of like full
circle. But that's
circle.
the most basic...
Well, and those are the only two interactions, but...
Yeah. Because, what do you do if you're stuck alone in the world? One other person, the world's destroyed, and he did that stuff at the beginning. How disgusting, yeah. What sums it up.
Gross.
But it could also be how disgusting we are as creatures in the human race that we let this happen. How disgusting my life has been. It's like, it could mean a million, billion different things. It's the perfect way to end the show, though, because this show doesn't get, you don't get to see them. This is what I hate, the ending to the manga that came after this. It's like sort of the same thing, but the last shot is Shinji walks into like a crowded subway and he looks up and he sees Asuka and she looks at him. It's too fairy tale ending. That's too... And they're both like, huh? And I'm like...
Oh, well, I would... A good ending, if they wanted to do that, was like have them see each other and like pause for a second and then go...
Yeah, not record. There you go. But this... Yeah, I don't...
See, we're smart. Why aren't we producing stuff?
Because we can only come up with good ideas from something else. Can't make our own.
I should be a script super.
Script supervisor doesn't do that.
I know.
Okay. But I like this ending. I think it works much better than the show's ending because it's... How else is this supposed to end? What else are we supposed to see?
I don't know.
The imagery, though, at the end, the last couple minutes, this blue and red with the white face.
I was sad because this specific shot doesn't actually happen in the movie.
No, it doesn't, but it's just sort of like the poster, and it's a beautiful piece of imagery. I think it's one of the most
freaky
well-composed things. It's kind of like a moon vibe.
Actually,
the red, the blue.
I didn't realize this, but I saw there's like that scene where Rey's humongous face is like, breaking off.
Yeah.
And I had seen that before online from somewhere. I forgot where, but I saw that picture before. And that just really stuck out in my mind. And then when it happened in the show, I'm like, oh.
Everything, like when her arm is sort of decomposing off.
When you saw like the huge angel spine, like, ugh, it's gross. But also, well done. But really gross.
It leaves you...
I need to go home and play Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon just to like have that saccharine, like no sadness thing from.
Okay, we just do a little bit of a clip there. We went over, but we're still. What were you talking?
Well, I was saying
Nicholas Sparks novels.
I was saying like with Nicholas Sparks or like other crappy stuff like that, like where you're just sad for like the moment. That's one thing, but I feel like with this, where it's like it kind of like makes you think. Or, you know, it has that depressive mood on it, but it makes you think. For me, I always, like, twist that into... I'm like, yep, I recognize I have those emotions, and now I want to do something positive with it.
Yeah,
like, that's kind of how... That's kind of how I respond to these kinds of things. So I feel like, with this, or, like, games that have really affected me, or you know, other TV shows or movies, I feel like I kind of have that... it kind of motivates me a little bit.
I agree.
For some weird reason. But just feeling those emotions just makes me like motivated.
Makes you feel alive almost a little bit, yeah. Well, we'll get to the wrap up. Just sort of get to this is the end of the Evangelion ones. What's your final thoughts on everything you saw? Are you happy you watched this show?
Final thoughts. I'm happy I watched it. I don't think I want to rewatch it anytime soon.
No, I don't think it's the kind of thing. I think you need some space.
Yeah, and it's like not my least favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing ever. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was worthwhile. Like, it was worth my time. Which, like, sounds like a really low bar, but for us, like, that's kind of a high bar.
I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm kind of gushing over it, but I just absolutely... This is my favorite show. This movie is just incredible. I feel like it's the kind of thing just so many people should see and just experience. Everybody's going to think about it a little differently. Mm-hmm. Just like I said, I think it's a masterpiece in storytelling, and just, I guess, if you're looking at things like cinematography and art and the way they write some of their scenes and characters, this is incredibly important.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you can appreciate it a little more because you went and got a film degree. So, like, I think you can appreciate it that side more. Whereas where I come from, because I'm an English teacher, I kind of come from, like, those critical lenses. Yeah. That really have not been developed for this kind of material. So, like, I don't have that background knowledge in order to be able to fully appreciate everything.
And it's almost a reciprocal, too, because I haven't read as many books or as many studies as you. So when I think about, like, how I feel, like, psychologically, how I relate to people in the world, because this is one of the few things I've watched that really delves into that, I always think of that. I think of what I do or respond to people in relation to what I've seen and learned in the show. It's the kind of thing I think about all the time. Somebody does something, and I'm like, oh, this reminds me of that thing in Evangelion. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's something that's had just, and I know this happens to some people, so it doesn't, but this is the kind of show that sort of had a pretty big effect on me.
Well, I mean, I think really, a really good indicator of something that is, like, kind of noteworthy or of merit is if it makes you reevaluate kind of your thoughts about what you knew about
honestly,
the world.
I watch this, and now I just feel like when I watch other shows now, I think of it differently, you know?
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that I think can affect you.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of how prestige television's been developing. Because, like, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, other, like, dominant, critically acclaimed
great
TV
shows. But I put this on a different level than those.
But what I'm saying is, like, just in terms of why television now is kind of going through that renaissance period is because it's finally, you know, kind of messing with what we actually expect and our dominant assumptions about the world around us. And I think the best thing a piece of work or a piece of art can do is kind of like undermine that and make you reevaluate what your basic thoughts about the world are.
No, that says it all.
Yeah. I'm smart.
Well, we'll probably get back to Avatar in a couple of weeks, probably next week or something like that.
It'll be a little lighter.
There's a little bit of a departure from that. I guess thank you if you watched the show with us, or if you'd already seen it and you're watching all of these. That was great. Thanks for joining us on this venture. If you got anything else you think we should watch, or if you think this show is dumb and I'm an idiot, just leave a comment down there.
Or if you think the show is good, but Travis is still an idiot, we'll write that too.
Do you got any final parting words?
No, I thought it was... I think we covered it all. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate it as a distinct piece of television.
I can't think of any other way to end this then. Congratulations.